Here's how you start your sourdough starter with fresh milled flour. This is day 1 through 7 that I'm going to be going over in this video. You're going to need some wheat berries. You can use hard white, hard red, even add some rye for some extra boost. Make sure you have a clean container with a lid. I like to just flip mine over and use that side when I tighten it down. We're going to be measuring out 12 grams of our wheat berries. Then we're going to measure out 16 grams of water. Make sure this is unchlorinated water. You can use bottled spring water also. Once you have it all together, mix really well until incorporated and all the flour is soaked. You're going to push it all to one side so it can sit and ferment overnight. Then I'm going to place it somewhere warm. I like to put my cloth underneath to keep that extra warmth from the counter. Day 2, we're going to repeat the process. Measure out our wheat berries. We're going to do 12 grams. And then we're going to measure out our water and do 16 grams. Make sure you're using unchlorinated water or spring bottled water. Make sure everything's well incorporated. Push it to one side so it can all ferment together. Set it somewhere warm with a cloth underneath and we'll come back for day 3. It's day 3 and we're going to repeat the same process as day 1 and 2. We're going to measure out 12 grams of our wheat berries and then 16 grams of our water. Make sure your water is unchlorinated or spring bottled water. Mix really well, put your lid on, set it somewhere warm again. Day 4, we're going to feed it a little bit different. We're going to do 24 grams of our wheat berries and 32 grams of water. Make sure you're using unchlorinated water or spring bottled water. Mix really well until incorporated. Then we're going to put our lid on and today we're going to mark it with a marker to see if it will rise. Then set it somewhere warm on a towel and we'll come back for day 5. Day 5, we're going to be measuring out 30 grams of your wheat berries, 32 grams of water. Mix until well incorporated and then mark your jar again. We're going to see if it starts to double in size. If on day 6 it hasn't doubled in size, add 40 grams of flour and 42 grams of water. Mix it all together and then see what happens the next day. So day 7, you can start doing your discard in the fridge, and then you can do a little bit different measurements. If it's still not doubling in size by day 7, there may be a couple issues. It may not be warm enough, so make sure your water is warm or at least to 103. And then you could increase your feeding, so you could do a 1-to-5 ratio and then see if that will help. And then if it starts to double in size, you can start feeding it twice a day if you want, doing a 1-to-1 ratio in the morning and a 1-to-1 ratio at nighttime. I prefer to do a 1-to-5 or a 1-to-10 ratio, and then I just keep mine in a little jar. So I'll just keep mine in a little jar. I'll just feed it really small portions. I don't have a big starter because I feel like that's kind of a waste, and I don't bake with this every day, so I don't want to waste any of my fresh milled flour. So this is our day 7 of feeding our sourdough starter. Basically, if this is doubling in size, that's a good sign. I would wait till day 10 to make any breads with it. As long as it keeps doubling in size, that means that's going to be strong enough to rise a bread if you're going to do bread. However, if it's not doubling in size, you need to strengthen your starter a little bit more, so you might have to go a couple more days. But you can start using your discard, and I usually just store my discard in the fridge. I'll make all kinds of recipes with that. So this is my starter this is a month-old starter that I did, and it's still bubbling from the feeding that I did. If you guys want to just keep a smaller starter, which I would suggest doing, because keeping a big jar is too hard to keep up with, you're going to be wasting a lot of flour, especially with fresh milled flour. That stuff is gold, so we don't want to like put too much in there. I like to do 3 grams, and then I'll do 15 grams of water and 15 grams of flour. So I'll either do a 1-to-5 ratio or a 1-to-10 ratio. I find that this really helps my starter, and I only feed my starter once a day on the counter. So this is kind of what really helps me have a good strong starter, and keep a little jar, because there's no point of keeping a big jar unless you're like baking out some bread and like you have your own like little business doing it and stuff. Then you probably would need to keep a bigger one. That's what I do to maintain my starter. So if your starter is doubling in size, I would keep feeding it twice a day until it starts doubling at least 3 days in a row. And then you can go to a smaller starter and just keep strengthening it till day 10. You can probably bake with it sooner than that, but it's really important to have a strong starter. I learned that in the beginning when I first switched to sourdough. So I would really suggest strengthening it before you start baking breads. And the nice thing is, all of your discard that you used creating this, you didn't have to throw away. So this is the no discard method, which is really awesome. You don't have to throw any of this away. You can just start using the discard when it's finally ready to start being used. So I just mixed everything in here. I'm gonna let it sit and I'll see kind of if it doubles again. It did double two days in a row. So this would be the third day tomorrow. If you guys have any questions, drop them below. I'm happy to help or troubleshoot. If you are doing your starter and something's not working, please message me or ask any questions in the comments. I'm happy to help. And I'm hoping to share some more sourdough recipes with you guys, but I am figuring out the bread stuff and then I can share some of that. But I have shared some of the discard recipes on here. And if you guys have any recipes you want to see, drop that below too, and I will try and make a video on that.